I'm going to give you some highlights of how I like to negotiate and how you want to do it completely. Again, it's all style, right? After doing it for years and years, I believe that collaboration is the best way to do it. And if I'm negotiating with Terry to buy his company and we come into the room and it's this table, I'm never going to sit here. If I sit here, I'm across the table. I'm on literally the other side. Right? So I'm at least going to drag my chair around to here and sit at the corner, and this is where we're going to start talking about the deal. And then when we get to the deal stack, when he's like, you know, how much do you want for the con? I want 3.2. Fantastic. Let's sit down here and work this out. How are we going to actually get you your money? And I'm going to come down and sit on their side of the table because I want it to be literally a collaborative process. Okay? I think that's a really important thing, that the seller believes that you are on the seller's side collaborating with her or him to get them what they want, which you should be. Law of price and terms. This is the thing that I came up with, not Dan Duran. This is my original thing. This is a thing that I heard from Dan Duran years ago that I just fell in love with the minute that I saw it, and if you tell the seller, like if you tell somebody that, it makes sense. It's actually true. Dan doesn't think it's a law. I think it kind of is, right?
But you leave part of it out. It's your price, my terms, or the reverse. You know, if you want the best price, you're going to go with my terms. But if you want the best terms, you're going to go with my price. And the way you explain it is, did I explain it? Example? Example is if you wanted to sell your house tomorrow and it's 60 days on market in this area, what are you going to probably have to do? Cut the price. Yeah, he tells you every time. And if you want the absolute best price, what are you probably going to have to do? 60 to 90 days easy, right? So there you go. You can never have both. It's a law. Oh, and did I tell you the story about that? First time when this first went out to my people, this guy reports to me the next day. He says, I was in the home. I was down to the end with this couple. And the guy says, well, I want the best price and the best terms. And his wife interrupts and says, honey, it's a law.
So they catch it real fast.
Yeah, and Dan had done a flip chart. Is that on the flip chart?
Yes, on the flip chart.
Yeah, so I had that flip chart, and I bought 7 houses here in San Diego within about 3 weeks of getting that flip chart, and used it. And it was really funny, and they were no money buys, and then I just ran auctions. I just put signs up, did 7-day auctions, and sold them and made a ton of money. And so it was really good. I meant to send you your share.
I appreciate that. I'm looking forward.
The other thing is, for me, beware of fair. A lot of people will use fair in negotiating to bully you into agreeing to something that's not necessarily fair. Fair is subjective, right? So what I tell people when they start talking about fair, well, I just want to do what's fair. I just want a fair price. I want a fair price. And I say, well, here's the deal. Fair market value has fair in the word. I'm going to give you the fair market value of your house, and the good news, we have all these multiples that tell, did I say house? Business. Fair market value of your business. Good news, we have all these multiples that are published by independent companies, not me, saying what fair is. So fair is this, right? That's really important. Then I go to the fairness zone. Which to me is an internal thing that I do. So I believe there's a fairness zone in every deal. I believe there's a price that's unfair to the seller. I believe there's terms that are unfair to the seller, and I believe that many sellers will agree to those unfair prices and unfair terms. I will not do that. So I want to pay the low end of what I subjectively believe is fair, but my subjectivity is informed by the data of the market, right? So if you find that somebody is willing to do something that's not really fair to them, or if they feel bad about it, then don't do the deal, because they will figure out a way to muck it up. They might come back later with a lawsuit. They might hide things. They might destroy the business between the time that you agree on the deal and the closing. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen. So you want to leave with a happy seller who you feel that you've treated right, and also that they are excited about the deal. And the story I like to tell about that is at Christmas, buying my son, who's a photography nut. He likes these expensive German cameras called Leica, and so he wanted a lens. And so I went on eBay to buy the lens for him, and the guy had a buy it now price in an auction, and I offered him half of, because I can't help myself, I offered him half of what he was asking for it. And I still, that to me, used stuff could be anything, right? So I felt that it was within the zone of fairness. And he he messaged me back and said, okay, I'll do it. I was really hoping to get more. I know I could get more if I waited. And I messaged him. So he agreed to it. And I messaged him back and I said, look, if you're not excited to sell it to, and I know the guy's reading this going, what the I said, if you're not excited to sell it to me for that, then I don't want to buy it, because I only want to buy it if you feel it's a fair deal, and it doesn't sound like that you think that. So if you do believe it's a fair deal, cool, but only if you're excited will I buy it. And if not, then just let it go through and see what you get for it. I'm looking right now. I might still be in the market and buy it for, you know, if you can give it to me for this price later if you don't sell it, but maybe you'll sell it and make more. So, I mean, I really believe you should live this. You know, don't let the karma of he took advantage of me or she took advantage of me get out there in the market.
Doesn't that come back though? Like, you know, even if they're happy that day, can they be not happy?
You can get seller's remorse, yeah. But I just want to get a feel for them. I think when you're talking to people, you can kind of get that feel. Like, you can talk people into things too, which is like, I'm not a good. Dan is better than me at selling, because I want you to be happy with the sale and excited about it now. I don't want to persuade you to do it. I want you to just like, yeah, okay, I'm ready to do this. He's better at helping people understand why they should be excited, and then they get actually truly excited. I don't do that bit. That bit you should do, because you will get them happy and get the good deal. So he gets more deals than I do with happy people, just because my willingness to go through the process of getting them happy is much lower than his.
Yeah, well, my rule is everyone involved, you know, seller and buyer, needs to be happy, satisfied, and better off as a result. And you can just tell them this is what we're shooting for. But here's the other reason, if that doesn't appeal to you, although I think it's a good way to go, as Roland showed, is. And maybe you've experienced this yourself. You can get too good at negotiating where they will not execute the deal, which is what you were talking about. Yeah. So negotiate too well and you're screwing yourself. So there's a good reason to be good and a bad reason to be good, because you're not going to get paid if you're too good. So
what's beautiful about what we've gone through and the deals that you guys have just kind of walked through is that it comes down to you're okay with the price higher, because you don't have to pay anything out of pocket for the company. And so as long as it works out and the company buys itself, that's all I ever really care about. I just want the company to buy itself, right? Yeah. Then you're happy. Yeah. So you have a lot more flexibility, because you're not actually having a straight out horse trade saying, yeah, you want $10 million for it? Okay, let me see if I've got $10 million in my pocket, right? Okay.
So Roland, did you buy the lens?
I did not buy the lens, no. I'm sure that he was just like, you're an idiot, you know. Pay present value, not future value. Do not get caught up in the deal heat of wanting to get the deal done and saying, well, yeah, I mean, I mean, it's not really worth what he's asking, but once I do this and this and this, it's definitely going to be worth 3 times what he's asking, so yeah, I should buy that. No, it's worth what it's worth today in his or her hands. It's not worth what you do to it till you do to it what you do to it, and what you do might not work out like you thought. So don't overpay, don't give them credit, don't negotiate for them ahead of time, and don't give them credit for something that they're not actually selling, okay? Then pace yourself. Pace yourself. Be prepared to walk away if you need to count to 3. Were we talking about that? Yeah. If you need to count to 3, you need to let the seller have the seller's process, right? I feel like I have to always stop thinking and talking so that I can hear people, because I tend to think ahead of what they've already said based on what I'm going to do and the next 5 things I'm going to do. But that's not really good. So I catch myself doing that. I'm like, right? Don't do that. The other thing that can happen when you're very eager, when you're very eager to move at a faster clip, is that you won't be as careful as you will be if you are thinking. So we have lots of attorneys and attorney support people in here. If you're ever in a deposition, a good litigator taking your deposition will try to establish the cadence of the questions that are coming, and they'll start here, but then they'll start asking faster and faster, because you won't have time to think about your answers, and you'll say something that each thing that you say, by the way, leads to a whole tree of additional questions they can ask. So here's how to have a 9-hour deposition. Talk a whole lot and don't think about what you're saying. Here's how to have a 1-hour deposition. Yes, no, I don't recall, count to 3 between each thing, right?
And in that regard, I'd like to share another little law I have is, well, let me ask you this. Who here was taught by mom and dad, never prejudge? It's not good to prejudge. Yeah. Anyone? Yeah. I like that. Yeah, exactly. And by the way, just so you know, in the mind, you can't help it because you see something, you go, what is this probably leading me toward? But here's what I say to that. It's okay to prejudge, just don't preempt. So you can have your prejudge, and that's in really before you go out to this deal, you get together with your partner and say, here's what I'm thinking, here's my assumptions, but still don't take their option of taking their own action. In this regard, I had one of my coaching clients buy a house, only worth $85,000, but he paid $1. And his prejudgment was, I can probably get this for 30. But instead he asked the question, hey, look, if I was able, this is a common question in selling houses. If I could pay you all cash and close quickly, what's the least you'd take for this place? And then shut up. And this guy looked around, and he was kind of pissed because his wife had left him, and this is all he had. And he said, $1. And I go, what was your counter? But anyway, does that make sense? So go ahead and prejudge. It's normal, but don't take away their chance to tell you what they will do. Make sense?
And then Chris Vossism's, how am I supposed to do that? How can I do that? Right? That's very, very effective. And at the end of his book, even if you don't want to read it, buy it and go to the very end where he summarizes all of his little stuff. And that's a great negotiation course in a page or two. And then when he texted me, it was really funny because I read his book and then I met him and we talked, and then he texted me shortly after. And one of his things is that we were always taught in negotiations to get a yes. And he said, I don't like that. I try to get a no first. And the reason is because it causes people to drop their walls. Because once they've said no, they feel safe. They're in control. So I liked it because he practices what he preached. What he texted me is he said, would it be ridiculous to think that we could do a deal together? So I said, yes. So that takes us to term sheets. So term sheet is once you've got all this deal stacking together. And by the way, going through the exercise of creating the deal stack and the different options that you have before you go in is very helpful. Your deal will be different than what you thought it was, but you will go in with a whole outline and framework of what you can do, which will really surprise the seller, right? How thorough you are, how well you've thought it out. The term sheet then comes to where we're actually going to say, okay, this is the deal. There are a lot of basic things that go on the term sheet. I just want to point out a couple of the ones that I think are important and sometimes overlooked by attorneys when they're drafting them. And that is not only the list of assets that are sold, but a list of the assets that are carved out if you're doing carve-outs. The deal stack details, including whatever owner carry there are, and then and then specificity about what the terms of the carry are. Not just that there's going to be an owner carry of X%, but what is the term, what is the interest rate, what are the payments, that kind of stuff. Speaking of seller carries and interest rates, I do not ever offer interest, and I'm seldom asked for it. So the deal is the deal, and the payment terms are the payment terms. We're not going to add interest on. We already agreed on what the payment terms were. Okay? And have any of you ever done deals like that with no interest? Okay, it's not a problem at all, right? They might ask for it. I say no. Dan has a more, I think.
Yeah, I just look and say, well, you want to lend me some money? Yeah, I pay 9.7% to private lenders. How much would you like to give me? No. The note that I'm, oh no, that's not cash. If it was cash, we wouldn't be talking, right? If you had your cash. So it's just the terms. That's the terms. And easy. And by the way, when I shot my infomercial, I had all my best guys in one place, and I took advantage of it. I said, what's the best thing about this program? And they said 0% interest. Why? Because it gets better and better and better each year because you're paying down that debt so fast. Make sense? Principal only, yeah.
So you are literally giving them a no with no interest.
Yes, all the time.
So your tax types will say
Yep.
the IRS will impute interest, and yeah, they might. Okay,
Well,
fine.
okay, but from what I understand, and here's that line, by the way. This isn't tax advice. In fact, it's not even advice. In fact, I'm not even here. But you left one of them out. Yeah, 0%. It's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing, and that's a great example of a belief that's shared by almost everybody. And it's not true. It's not true. So change that one.
Your counter-argument to the IRS could be, actually, that was treated as a reduction in the purchase price equal to the amount of the interest. So there's ways to fight it, but it usually just doesn't come up. But I don't pay interest. So that's the bottom line. Non-compete. So you don't want your seller to come back and compete against you. Most people know that. Definitely be sure that you negotiate that. But in addition to non-compete, you want non-solicitation, because the last thing you want is the seller to open up a completely new business that needs a sales force and to come into the old business and steal your sales force to go work at the new one because they all love them, right? So it has to be a non-solicitation clause that says you can't come in and poach any of the people that work for the company, any of the suppliers or manufacturers or anybody else. You should also always ask for a standstill. Standstill means if we're to the point of doing a term sheet, I don't want you trying to negotiate with other people to sell the business. We're going to have a deal. So no shenanigans on trying to get a better one, okay? And then no non-ordinary course acts. You don't want them to suddenly loan $100,000 to their brother-in-law or sign an extended contract with their sister's company or anything like that. So no out of the ordinary course acts. Run the business, okay? You've got to continue to run the business. It should also say that. But also, you can't do anything that's not normal. And those are to me the most important things that frequently get overlooked. You can also build in a breakup fee. If you have invested money in attorney's fees and things like that, and you get to the point of signing a term sheet, you might have a breakup fee for $10,000 if things don't work out that you put in there to say, you know, you committed to this? Is this going to happen? Yeah, okay, fantastic. I'm about to spend 10 grand on attorney's fees. I don't want to do that and then have you decide you don't want to sell. So is there any chance of you backing out of this deal? No. These are the terms of the deal? Yes. Great. Then I want a breakup fee of 10 grand because I've had that happen before where sellers decide they don't want to sell at the last minute, and I don't want to be stuck with my attorney's fees.